Everyone's why with composting might be a little bit different, but the dominant one is just to be diverting food waste that otherwise ends up in your red bin and being able to, with other materials, convert it to soil. Of course, you encourage children to finish what they've taken to their plate, but there's going to be a lot of food waste. And it's one of the easy things to divert from just putting into your red bin and do something simple like composting that you can include the children into. The second reason is why have a compost is that it's one of the easy things to show to children, to include the children at your service into. And then the third is that you do get some type of compost soil, depending what your inputs are, you get something out of it as well. So I guess that's a uniquely early education consideration of why do we have so much food waste, or why do we have so many things that can go into the compost in the first place. And not all services are serving food to children throughout the day, but in one way or another, maybe children are bringing their own food in the lunchbox, there will be food waste, and that's a thing where you can't force children to finish all the food that they've chosen or all the food that's been cooked. So it's a bit different to a home environment where you really can be, very on top of what you're making and how much is being eaten and then reused. It's a commercial requirement for your kitchen, and a lot has to be thrown. So then the desire to have a compost to help combat that is even more important. So we started with a more conventional 3-bay composting system. You can probably start to see behind me we have 8 now, but we started with the 3, a full height pallet for each bay, and what we were finding was we were just building up too much material too quickly, and maybe with better management, more of a vigorous approach, we could have been turning the compost quickly enough. But I guess which early education service does have that amount of time? So we went for smaller bays and more of them, which means that it's harder to really build the level of compost up as high, and then gives children more involvement in the process, but can actually be a part of the process more, rather than it just being an adult or an educator coming in and really doing such an integral part of the composting. So that's why we've gone for more and smaller, and so far it's working a lot better. Really, all we've done is just get pallets from Bunnings. They're quite helpful to get things from. They have a million pallets and they're happy to give them to you. And then stand them up and tie them together with wire. So if you really have no tools, you can even just get the wire and break it with your hands. But if you do, of course, have something to cut it with, that makes it a lot easier. I guess the thing to look out for with peat treaters, you'll have some type of labelling to tell you it's peat treated. Composting, you're generally trying to have an even mix of 2 different materials, which are described as your greens and your browns. So the green materials are the nitrogen-heavy materials, and for us at our preschool, that's our food waste, and more so in summer, spring, it's the grass clippings, and then the carbon or brown materials, which are things that I guess have dried out, to describe it loosely. So old leaves that have dried out, or even older grass clippings that have, they've turned brown. So our challenge really is finding more things that we can put in to even out that balance. You generally try and have an even balance. And for us with the carbon materials, we use paper towel, like the hand towel that children will use, I should say. We're using cardboard, paper, and I guess that's the challenge, is trying to find ways to embed that more into our practices here. It's we're finding it easy at the moment to take our food scraps to the compost, but still working at finding ways to take all those other carbon materials to the compost. So this is our current or active compost bay. We've made up a little sign even, just so that it's clearer to everybody. Not everyone who works at your service is going to be as familiar with composting. So just something to help everyone know this is where we're adding new material, food waste, or leaves, whatever scraps from the yard that you can find around. All the bays on the right here are older bays that we've left. They're now going off, and the children will come out and turn them with an educator, and they drop off other new material. If we pan all the way back over to the left here, This is our most recent compost bay that we've stopped adding to. We've put grass clippings over, and we're going to let that sit, and of course that'll compress down and get smaller. This full height bay here is the finished material, so whenever one of our bays is finished being turned, it's turned into composted soil, then we load it up here, and that's something we're encouraging staff, families to take home with them. It's more material than we can use in our service, so it's a great thing to start giving away. And this is another bay that will become, and we'll close it in, another completed bay once it gets to that stage. But we're still moving the bays around a bit at this time. But also I think it's just working with what you have. I think for early education, to try and get too caught up on having a perfect composting system maybe doesn't need to be the goal. It's more about getting those materials that you do have and doing what you can with them.